Under the pale glow of a full moon, the village market square came alive. Smoke from roasting yams and spicy suya curled into the night air, carrying the scent of firewood and pepper. The deep, steady throb of the ekwe drum echoed across the stalls, joined by the sharp clang of the ojin. Crickets sang from the tall grass at the edges of the square, as laughter and lively chatter wove through the rhythm of the drums. The whole village seemed to sway beneath the moonlight, as if the night itself had joined the dance. The Imugwa market buzzed with its own vibrant energy, especially under the bright, watchful moon that seemed ready to pour its soft, milky light over everything. It was a night for commerce, for the clinking of shillings and the haggling over yams, but more than that, it was a night for life. Palm wine, sharp and sweet, flowed freely, loosening tongues and fueling stories told in hushed, dramatic tones. The very air thrummed with the sound of the ojin, its metallic clang a summons to the dance floor that no one, young or old, could resist. And it was here, in the heart of this swirling, joyous chaos, that Nkemjika disappeared. A young woman, Nkemjika, her face illuminated by lantern light. She is beautiful, wearing a vibrant George wrapper and intricate coral beads. She is dancing with a handsome young man, Obinna. One moment, she was a whirlwind of color and grace, her new wrapper a flash of crimson and gold in the firelight. The coral beads on her neck, a gift from her new husband's mother, whispered against Obinna's chest as they moved to the intoxicating rhythm of the Adalagwa dancers. Her laughter, a sound as clear and refreshing as spring water, wove itself into the fabric of the night's symphony. The next, a sudden, unnatural silence fell over their small patch of the earth. A gust of wind, cold and sharp, rose from the base of the ancient Irako tree that stood sentinel at the market's edge, kicking up a blinding cloud of red dust. When the world settled and Obinna could see again, his arms, which moments before had held his entire world, were empty. Then, without warning, the drums fell silent. For a heartbeat, the night held its breath. When the sound returned, it was no longer music, only shouts, hurried footsteps, and the frantic calls of those searching in the darkness. The celebration shattered like a dropped clay pot. Panic, sharp and piercing, cut through the revelry. Obinna's cry, a raw sound of disbelief and terror, galvanized the crowd. Nkemjika, my wife, where is she? His brothers, Emeka and Chinedu, strong men known for their prowess in wrestling, immediately rallied the village youths. Torches were lit, their flames casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on the eyes. They tore through the market, overturning baskets of cassava, peering into the dark corners of deserted stalls where old women sold medicinal herbs. They combed the surrounding bush, their calls echoing unanswered through the dense foliage of the Ugwani forest. They followed the path down to the Idemili River, its surface a dark, unblinking mirror reflecting the indifferent moon. They found no sign, not a single dropped bead from her necklace, no scrap of her crimson wrapper caught on a thorn, not even a footprint in the soft earth to show which way she had gone. It was as if the ground itself, or perhaps the spirits that dwelled within it, had opened a hungry mouth and consumed her whole. The old women whispering amongst themselves, occasionally shaking their heads. Then, as the third day dawned with no news, the whispers began. They started not with the men, whose search was growing more frantic, but with the old mothers of the village, the ones whose eyes had witnessed generations of joy and sorrow. Huddled close, they cracked cola nuts and whispered a chilling tale. It wasn't just a kidnapping, it was a serious reckoning with the spirits. They talked about a debt, an unsettled bride price. As the proverb says, Ani ji madu en Allah, ji onwiya. He who holds another down holds himself down. Had Obinna's family, in their haste and pride, forgotten a crucial part of the marriage rites? Obinna's father, Matsi Okoro, was chatting excitedly, waving his elephant tusk staff, while Nkemjika's dad sat there, looking serious. Matsi Okoro, Obinna's father, was a man whose yam barns were famously full and whose pride was even fuller. During the marriage negotiations, he had been loud and boastful. He had presented gallons of the finest palm wine, brought the fattest she-goat, and promised a grand celebration. But Nkemjika's kinsmen, the Umwada, the powerful daughters of the lineage, had made a specific, final request. It was not for money or livestock, but for a rare, white eagle feather, a symbol of purity and high honor, to be presented to Nkemjika's grandmother, the matriarch of her clan. It was a symbolic gesture, a nod to an old tradition. Matsi Okoro, in a fit of arrogance, had scoffed. "Do we look like bird hunters?" he had boomed, laughing. "We pay in currency and substance, not in feathers and folklore." He had thrown a few extra shillings on the table, considering the matter closed. Nkemjika's father had been silent, but a shadow had passed over his face. The Umwada had exchanged glances, their lips tightening. No one had argued further, but an unspoken tension had settled, a debt left hanging in the air. Agbusi Naigbu Madu Anagi, Equi Yuri Nri Oma. The spirit that is to kill a man will not let him eat a good meal. The feast had continued, but the sweetness was gone. Now, the story returns to the present. Beneath the wide shadow of the old Irako tree, Obinna sits alone, thin, hollow-eyed, and carrying the weight of memories too heavy for his shoulders. His brother, Nkemjika, approaches him with a bowl of food, which Obinna ignores. A blow. He became a ghost haunting the edges of the village, his eyes sunken, his spirit broken. He refused food, his body shrinking on his frame. Sleep offered no escape, only nightmares of an empty embrace and swirling red dust. He would spend his days at the Afor Market Square, staring at the spot where he had last held his wife, as if his vigil alone could will her back into existence. His brother Nkemjika tried to reason with him. "Obinna, you must eat. We need your strength. We will find her." But Obinna would only shake his head, muttering, "The feather, Nkemjika. We never gave them the feather." My father laughed. The proverb haunted him. When a man says yes, his chi also says yes. His father had said no, and perhaps the spirits had agreed. A dibia, a traditional healer, in his hut. It is dark, filled with gourds, herbs, and carvings. The dibia, an old man with chalk-dusted eyes, is casting cowries on a mat. Desperate, Matsi Okoro, his pride now shattered and replaced by a gnawing fear, sought the counsel of Izmuo, the most powerful dibia in the 7 surrounding villages. In the dim, herb-scented confines of the healer's shrine, Matsi Okoro confessed his folly. Izmuo listened, his ancient face impassive, before casting the sacred cowries. He chanted, his voice a low rumble, calling on the ancestors. The cowries fell, scattered like bones on the mat. The dibia stared at them for a long time, his silence more terrifying than any pronouncement. Finally, he spoke, his voice raspy. "The spirits of the river, the protectors of her maternal lineage, are displeased. A promise made before the ancestors is a sacred bond. You offered money where honor was due. You cannot buy a spirit with shillings." Nkemjika has been taken to a place between worlds, held as collateral for a debt of pride. She is not dead, but she is not with the living. The dibia points a bony finger at Matsi Okoro. To bring her back, the dibia continued, his eyes seeming to pierce right through the proud man. The debt must be paid, not just in kind, but with humility. You must find not just any eagle feather, but one from the great fish eagle that nests atop the tallest cliffs by the Aji River. And you, Matsi Okoro, the one who scoffed, must go with your son. You must present it to Nkemjika's grandmother with a bowed head and a contrite heart. You must appease the Umwada with gifts and ask their forgiveness. Only when the balance is restored will the path for her return be cleared. But be warned, he added, his voice dropping to a whisper. The spirits do not give back what they have taken easily. The path will be perilous, and your time is running out. The next full moon is in 10 days. If she is not returned by then, the door will close forever. Obinna and his father, Matsi Okoro, preparing for a journey. They gather ropes and supplies. Obinna's face set with a grim, desperate determination, looking towards the distant cliffs as the sun rises. The rhythmic drumming returns, but it is slower now, more ominous, a heartbeat counting down the days. For Obinna, this was no longer a search. It was a race against the moon itself, a desperate pilgrimage to reclaim his love from the spirit world. With his father, the source of his predicament, now his only ally, he had to face the wrath of both nature and the supernatural. The bride had vanished at the market square, taken as payment for a forgotten promise. Now, the husband had to walk into the realm of legend to buy her back, not with money, but with courage, humility, and a single white feather.